Frank Isola, the Nets studio host on Sirius XM NBA Radio, the starting lineup host. You can also see him as a contributor to Around the Horn. Pardon the interruption. Frank was on site at the Nets game on Saturday night as we watched James Harden make a cameo appearance and then head to the locker room. Frank, thanks for joining us. What can we expect with James Harden, or what did you find out about that injury?
Yeah, he lasted 43 seconds. You didn't see him again. I thought it was interesting after the game. I once had a guy tell me when I first started covering sports, a guy from the New York Times, he said, never underplay an injury. And after games, if a guy's not hurt, the team will always say it's not that bad. If it's a bad injury, they'll always say, no, we don't really know. And after the game, that's what you were kind of getting from the Brooklyn Nets. And then Steve Nash said, I'm heartbroken for James. Why would you be heartbroken for him if he's going to come back anytime soon? And then Kevin Durant made it seem like it's going to be a long-term thing. Just remember this, Dan, when Harden got same hamstring injury, he was out from April 7th until May 12th. So that should kind of give you some indication of where this could be.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, the severity. He knew right away, but I've said this the last couple of weeks, whether it was LeBron's ankle, it was AD's groin, it was Harden's hamstring. These injuries don't go away. They linger. You manage them. Maybe they cool down a little bit. But if LeBron kept playing, that ankle would be a problem at some point in the playoffs. Right. And I think with Anthony Davis, the groin injury was not going to go away. And the same thing with James Harden. And I just don't know. It sounded like it's far more severe than at least it looked, because he just sort of went up, felt it, I'm gone. I don't know if he's going to be out as long as he was before, because a lot of that could have been just precautionary.
Yes.
But this is now you got the Milwaukee Bucks, and if the Bucks win tonight, at some point, can you say to James Harden, we need you?
I know. Probably the most famous hamstring injury in the playoffs, I guess, would be Magic when they played Detroit, when Detroit won its first title, and he was unable to play. I also think you're right about the idea that they did hold him out for that long stretch because they knew that they were sitting in a good position. They were either going to finish second or third, and that James Harden would eventually return. I don't know if we're going to see him again in this series, and that could be an issue. Now, Mike James, who began the season in Russia, took those minutes. He played 30 minutes in game one. He had 12 points. Chris Middleton had 13. Yeah. So Mike James coming off the bench, a guy that nobody's even heard of, did a really good job. But I wonder to me, they could still win if it's Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. That's how good those two players are. But the road to winning a championship just became that much harder for the Brooklyn Nets.
We've been talking about Luka Doncic and that whatever that relationship or lack thereof is with Kristaps Porzingis. You covered him when he was with the Knicks, and he was a big deal, literally and figuratively, with the Knicks. We thought Tim Hardaway Jr. was the throw-in on that trade. It feels like he's the better player out of this. Like, what does Dallas do with Luka, and is Kristaps Porzingis going to be in that equation?
Yeah, I would have to think there's a possibility they could look to move Kristaps. He needs to get stronger, not really his upper body strength. It really needs to be his core, because he gets pushed out of the block too easily. Defensively, he's not strong enough. Yes, he can knock down shots. And if you look at what he did yesterday, his 2-pointers, I think he ended up going 6 for 7 on twos. The problem was he couldn't knock down a 3. He needs to get better. I definitely think there's a bit of a rivalry there. And I think Kristaps needs to come to the realization that Luka is the star of the team. I think we automatically assume, well, they're two guys from Europe, so obviously they must get along. I don't think that's been the case. You could see the dynamic there is not great. Now, you don't have to be the best of friends, to be successful, but on the court, that chemistry isn't good between the two of them.
The Hawks take game one. If I said to the Hawks, you could do a do-over and you get Luka Doncic and Trae Young's in Dallas, Atlanta does that in a second?
Atlanta would never admit it publicly, but they would take Luka Doncic. And that's the thing. I think Trae Young has been great. To me, he's been the breakout star of this playoffs. But Luka is just at a different level. It's like the other night at Barclays Center. You're watching Kevin Durant and you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. And Giannis is everything that you'd want in a player. Just his dedication, how much he wants to improve. But he's a 2-time MVP in the league. But Kevin Durant is just at a different level. Just look at the shots that he makes, the plays that he can make for other players. You love Giannis, but Kevin Durant is better. You love Trae Young, Luka Doncic, and plus the size of Luka Doncic is a factor as well.
Is Ben Simmons, did we overrate Ben Simmons? Are we waiting for him to be the next Magic Johnson, and he's never going to be the next Magic Johnson?
I think that part is fair. I think we do tend to focus on the things that he can't do, which is shoot three-pointers. I think he needs to get better, clearly shooting the free throws. He was 3 for 10. It's the same thing with Antetokounmpo. Everyone focuses on threes. They get fouled. They go to the line, knock down the free throw. So you get to these points in a game where it looks like Ben Simmons doesn't want the ball and he doesn't want to attack the basket because he's worried about getting fouled. So I don't care about the three-pointers, but he needs to get better shooting from the free throw line, but he can dominate on both ends of the court. He's big. I still think he's going to get better. You could tell that it's weighing on his mind, though. Getting fouled, the fans getting into it, people talking about his three-point shooting. You could tell that it's wearing on him a bit.
Well, you saw that with Lonzo Ball, that he would be on the perimeter and he could take a three-pointer or he could take like a 20-footer and he would just get – they would just let him alone, and it played with him. Now, he became a little bit better, but he couldn't have been that much worse. Ben Simmons can't be a liability late in the game.
I know, and you could play off of him. So when they're looking to get back in the game and you watched it last night, he's dribbling down the court. You could lay off of him. You know that he's looking to pass the ball to somebody else. So he's end up passing the ball to a guy that isn't on his level as a player, but Ben's not even thinking about shooting three-pointers. It's a hurdle that he needs to get over. Again, I don't mind that he doesn't attempt 10 a game, but you might want to take 2 or 3 a game because you're open and you always have the ball in your hands.
What do you think the Lakers do in the offseason?
I mean, health is going to have a lot to do with it, with LeBron and Anthony Davis. But it was interesting hearing Magic Johnson come out and destroying Dennis Schroeder. That to me is an American sports phenomenon. We always start blaming like the 4th, 5th, and 6th best player, like it's their fault. And it wasn't Anthony Davis being hurt and LeBron James. Because when you look on paper, when they made those moves, you thought Schroeder was an upgrade over Rondo, just from a youth standpoint. Sure. Obviously has a lot more left in the tank. Montrezl Harrell was a big-time disappointment. So even Drummond, remember when they picked up Drummond, Dan, everyone thought, well, this is unfair. How come the Lakers are allowed to get a guy like this? So in the biggest game of their season, when Anthony Davis was on one leg, Andre Drummond doesn't even end up playing. So they need to do a better job of filling those roster spots. Schroeder will be the big one because maybe what they can do with him is use him in a sign and trade to bring back a player if they don't want him anymore.
We had Jalen Rose on last week, and he was so accurate in saying this, that in the offseason – a player, when he's might leave, be traded, sign with somebody, he's either going to the Lakers or the Knicks. And then, Damian Lillard's name came up, and then all of a sudden it's like, could the Knicks get Damian Lillard here? What's the likelihood that Damian Lillard is on another team next year?
I still think with 3 years left on his contract, I'm still trying to build around him. And a lot of times they obviously have already announced that Terry Stotts is out. So bringing in a new coach could change things around. I'm not trading him unless I get blown away. Think about how many first-round picks New Orleans got for Drew Holiday. Think about all the first-round picks the Houston Rockets got for James Harden. So if you're making a deal, yes, first-round picks are going to be a part of it, which is something that the Knicks have. But you want to get a player back as well. I think eventually it could happen. I don't think this summer. I'm keeping Damian Lillard on my team.
Did the Knicks have a successful season?
100%.
Okay.
Definitely they did. Look at the teams they finished ahead of. Atlanta on a tiebreaker. Miami, their talent's not better than those teams. Their talent's not better than the Boston Celtics. So the Knicks overachieved during the regular season, Dan, because Tom Thibodeau, in a league where not all the teams and all the stars played hard every night, the Knicks played hard every single night. I think Randall played 70 or 71 games, so he was out there all the time. But then you saw Julius Randle in the playoffs. Look at all the best teams, whether it's Donovan Mitchell with Utah, Devin Booker with the Phoenix Suns. All the star players on those individual teams all had good performances in the playoffs. Julius Randle scored 90 points in 5 games. Trae Young scored 98 points at Madison Square Garden alone. So Julius Randle, the guy that carried them, wasn't ready for the moment.
But, the dangerous part is now the Knicks have expectations.
That's right.
It's been decades since they've had expectations. And in that city, as you well know, it can be pretty tough sledding when they expect you now to be a good team, a top 4, top 5 seeded team.
Yeah, they were the little engine that could. The owner stays out of it. Now, next season, everyone's going to look at Tom Thibodeau and say, all right, now what, Tom? We got the 4th seed. You didn't win a playoff series, so now all the pressure is on you. For me, the pressure is on the front office during the offseason because the roster was essentially the same, except for adding a couple of rookies. And then they went out and got Derrick Rose, who was a backup in Detroit and became really their best player during the playoffs. So the front office, which kind of stood pat, really didn't spend a lot of money. The Knicks were well under the salary cap. It's up to them somehow to find a star, which is not easy to do. That's why a lot of people in the organization wanted Gordon Hayward, because those players don't become available that often. Because remember, Dan, before the season began, it was this dream. Well, maybe Giannis Antetokounmpo will sign with the Knicks as a free agent. Then he ends up re-signing with the Milwaukee Bucks. A lot of these players end up re-signing. So when a guy like that is available, you try to go for it. He ends up going to Charlotte. I get that he's hurt, but he's still a talented player. Somehow the Knicks have to improve their talent because Atlanta's talent was better than the New York Knicks talent.
Would you trade Kristaps Porzingis for Ben Simmons? Who would you rather have?
If I were Dallas, I would do it. I'm not so sure if I were Philly, I would do it because he's still 6'9", can handle the ball and could defend. And here's the other thing: it's durability. And I like Kristaps, but if you can't stay on the court, you're not doing me any good. And they already have a guy in Embiid. I had an MVP vote. I did not put Embiid in my top 5 because he only played in 51 games. I mean, come on now. I think the guy's terrific. But, availability is important as well as production. That's why Jokic, who played in 21 more games than Embiid, I don't even think it's an argument.
Yeah, I don't have a vote anymore, but I said I could not vote for James Harden because of what he did in Houston. I just can't. I love watching him, but what he did to that franchise, he showed up out of shape. He built a roster, then dismantled a roster, then won it out. And I can't reward you because you forced your way out to go to the Nets and you played well. I expect him to play well, but he really damaged the franchise in the process.
He did, and I didn't like the way that he handled his departure from there. And I think you're 100% right. As a professional, you need to show up, on time, which he didn't, in shape, which he did. Then there were stories that the owner was trying to contact him during the offseason. He wasn't returning the calls. If I go one day without returning my boss's call, there's a good chance I won't be working there anymore. Meanwhile, you're getting paid like $20-30 million. You should return the call of your owner. I did have him neck and neck with Jokic, and then I was kind of taken off the hook by the fact that he got hurt. So I didn't vote for anybody in my top 5 who did not play in at least 60 games. To me, that was the cutoff. I can't vote for guys playing like Embiid 51. I think LeBron was about between, 48 or 53 games. So that to me, you have to play in the games. Come on, we have to have some standard when we're voting for these awards.
Thank you, Frank. Great to talk to you.
Good talking to you, Dan. Good luck with the Emmy Award. Go PTI. Sorry.
Wait, what do you...
Those are my guys.
But they've won it before. Oh, Frank, look at what you just did to these
guys.
Come
on, Frank.
They pay me. What do you want me to do?
I know.
And I fill in on that show. If you have me filling for you, then it'll be.
They don't need another win, though, Frank.
Yeah, that's probably true.
I mean, this is the most important moment in these guys' lives.
I apologize.
Not when they had children, not when they got married. It's winning. They want to get their hands on that woman, that trophy.
All right. I'll you know what? I'll go for you guys. The heck with Tony and Mike. What have they ever done for me?
They don't even care.
I don't think they do.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Frank Isola. He's probably not going to be co-hosting on Pardon the Interruption.
Wow.
Well, he can always come in here. He can sit in the chair if he wants to.